Kia ora everyone. So my name is Shane. First of all, thank you so much to Seed Waikato for having me along this evening. It's truly an honour. So I'm here this evening to talk about myself, my journey through diversity and discrimination, and also to talk to you about the work that Waikato Queer Youth does. Just a little bit of a prior warning, there are a few topics that are a little bit sometimes hard to deal with. And even when talking about them, I can get slightly emotional, so just apologising in advance, but I am simply sharing this journey so that hopefully I can open others' eyes to experiences that can go on in life and we don't actually realise what people have been through. So, a little bit about my life and who I am today. So I'm a personal trainer at Les Mills Hamilton. I'm a group fitness trainer at the Henry Bennett Centre, which is the Mental Health Institute in Hamilton. I'm a nutrition lecturer at the Wintec Centre for Sports Science and Human Performance, and I have my own business called Your Way Wellbeing. So I'm a wellbeing coach. I hold seminars, workshops, and do training around what wellbeing is and how we can achieve a better sense of wellbeing for ourselves. I also have several volunteer roles, so I'm a guest columnist for Inspo Fitness Journal, so I write a wellbeing column for them. I'm on the Project of Change for Mental Health and Addiction Services Advisory Board, and I'm also the focus group leader for the Lgbtqia+ community. I'm a youth mentor and facilitator at Waikato Queer Youth, and I also help out with the Everyone's Game speaker series, addressing homophobia in sports with the Waterboy. Trying to make sure I don't go the wrong way. Let's see how this goes. Boom, there we go. Got it. Success. All right. So, when people meet me, they tend to think I'm like a really confident person, and because I've got a degree and all of that sort of stuff, I've had a great life. But for me, my life has only kind of just got great. Up until now, it hasn't been that fantastic. So I faced a lot of diversity and discrimination growing up. So I really wanted to highlight what I've been through to get to where I am today. So when I was younger, I knew I was different. I was just like, I grew up in a place called Thames, which is a very kind of like hearty country town. And I was the like feminine little prissy boy that when my parents bought me a Superman costume, the only thing I wore was the cape as a wig. So I knew like, okay, I'm a little bit different, something's going on, what's my sexual identity, what's my gender identity. Didn't really understand what that was, I just knew that I was creative and enjoyed life and I was happy. But unfortunately because of that, other people didn't accept it. So from my first days at school, I faced bullying, harassment, emotional and physical abuse, and homophobia. So I was constantly called names, queer, sissy, faggot, all of those things that we hear. And for me, it really had a detrimental effect on how I felt about myself. So it really affected my confidence, everything like that. Unfortunately, from that stage, when I moved on to high school, everyone was still labelling me as gay, and I was kind of at a stage in my life where I didn't actually even understand what sexuality was. So I approached a teacher about it that I trusted, asked for their support and if they could help me. And unfortunately, as we hear far too often, that person that I turned to for trust ended up taking advantage of me and sexually abusing me. So that's something I went through from the age of 14 to 17. And for me, that caused a lot of like trust issues and confusion, because you look at these people, especially teachers and authority figures, and you think, okay, this is someone that should be there for me and I can trust, and they took that away. So I ended up dropping out of high school with no qualifications, had no NCA, anything. From that, I kind of went down a really bad path, so started drinking, started doing drugs. For me, it was kind of about numbing the pain and the self-medication. So before I was even 18, I had a really tough battle with my mental health. I was diagnosed with clinical depression, 3 anxiety disorders, and had started self-harming, so cutting myself, having suicide attempts, that sort of thing. I also developed a severe eating disorder. I kind of got this body dysmorphia, which is quite common within the gay community. And from that, I've had a long-term weight battle. After that, I got into a relationship and I was like, cool, I've met the man of my dreams, everything's going to be great, all the problems are gone. Unfortunately, what I didn't realise is that I went for the person that I was used to in the past, so those people that are manipulating. So it ended up turning to physical, emotional and sexual abuse and ended really badly to the point that he's now in jail. Because of that, I ended up having what's classed as, well, like a breakdown. We all know about them. I felt like I'd lost everything. So from it, I lost my partner, I lost my friends, I lost my family, I lost my job. So I ended up trying to take my life and got admitted to the Henry Bennett Centre. And then that was kind of where I really hit rock bottom. Sorry, I'm just trying to reorganise my slides. Knew this would go terribly, should have done a sassy throw, but all good. All right. So, next up, I want to move on. So that's a little bit about my background and like diversity and discrimination and the barriers I had to overcome. So when I look forward and going at my journey, oh yeah, and I've got to hit the slides too. I need an assistant up here, I swear to God. Oh, now I'm going backwards. This really needs an up and down label. I'm laying a complaint. All right, here we go. So with my journey, being in a mental institute was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. So I got some rest, I got the help I needed, I got support, and I finally got to recover. And it was a time of really starting over, starting fresh. I was able to rebuild my life and think about, okay, well, where to next? Because I'd spent the first 23 years of my life suffering from depression, abusing my body, and just never truly loving myself or being happy. The first thing I had to do was go, okay, well, I've got to do the self-discovery. I have to start self-acceptance. I have to find self-worth. I have to work on my self-esteem, and I have to find self-love. For me, a huge part of that was accepting my sexuality and my sexual identity. So it was the first time I really had to face-to-face come, I suppose, to terms with the fact that I was gay and that I identified as gender fluid. From there, I started a relationship with health, fitness and wellbeing, and it was a journey into a whole new world. Once again, being the prissy little gay boy from a small town, and having the build I have. I wasn't a rugby player, I know that's a big shock. But so I was never really into sports or anything like that. So it was all new to me, and I thought, okay, well, I realised that exercise makes me feel better about myself, so I thought, well, I want to do that for others. So I decided to get into tertiary education, get into study, take that big step forward. And of course it wasn't easy. There were still battles, hurdles and struggles, but for me it was just taking that huge leap of faith, getting that guidance, that help, that support and finding success. I'm just going to do the sassy throw from now on. All right, let's see if I get this right. Yes, there we go. So for me, from going through all of that, from being a high school dropout, from someone that's been in a mental institute, 5 years later I gained a certificate in fitness industry training, a certificate in massage therapy, a degree in sports science and human performance. I was awarded Personal Trainer of the Year at the WinTech Sports Awards and the Memorial Trophy for Contribution to Sport at the WinTech Sports Awards in 2017. In 2016, I was awarded Student of the Year for the whole of New Zealand at the New Zealand Exercise Industry Awards, and in October last year, I was awarded Up and Coming Personal Trainer of the Year at the New Zealand Exercise Industry Awards. So I really just wanted to bring this up, not to brag about myself, but more just to talk about when we look at diversity, looking at the background I come from as a high school dropout, that didn't matter to me. At any stage in our lives, we can turn them around and move forward. So what does this all kind of mean? What's the relevance to tonight? So when I look at my life, it's great most days, but that's something I'm still getting used to. The struggle has been real, but I can appreciate the battle I've been through to get to where I am, and it's made me who I am today. When I look at my background, I've had experiences that I should never have experienced, period. Some of these experiences are from my own mistakes, and I own that. However, others are from situations I was put in or had forced upon me, and that's never okay. Discrimination, segregation, bullying, and homophobia is my past. I hope it's not our future. When I look at my journey, my sexuality does not define me. I define me. Yes, I'm gay. Yes, I'm gender fluid, but that's not who I am. Don't judge me or others based on their sexuality or gender identity. Judge them on their morals, their values, and their character, or just don't judge them at all. My story. For me, my story is my success, and my success for me is the fact that I can be open about living with depression and open about living with anxiety. It's about being openly and publicly gay and gender fluid, and for me, my success is being an advocate for mental health, the queer community, and being able to do work with Waikato queer youth to improve the experiences of youth today and helping to educate the wider community. So, Waikato Queer Youth. This is a little bit about what we do and who we are. So Waikato Queer Youth is based in Hamilton Central and offers a safe, awesome space for all youth who identify or don't identify as queer. We have meetings every Monday from 4:30 till 6:30 at Zeal on Ward Lane, and the people that are welcome is anyone who identifies as queer, is questioning their sexual or gender orientation, or is just queer friendly. Anyone is welcome who relates to the kaupapa and is experiencing or identifies with youth issues and is between the ages of 13 to 30. So I think I have to leave shortly, but that's okay. So, one thing I always get asked is, what does LGBTQIA+ stand for? It's a little bit confusing. It's a really long acronym, so I quickly wanted to break it down for you guys. So, the L stands for lesbian, which is a term used to refer for a female identifying person who is attracted to another female identifying person. The word gay or homosexuality is a term used for a male identifying person who is attracted to another male identifying person. Bisexuality is when a person can be attracted to two sexes and or genders. Transgender is an umbrella term for transgender and transsexual people. Queer is an umbrella term for all of those who are not heterosexual and or cisgender. Intersex is when a person has an indeterminate mix of primary and secondary sex characteristics. Asexuality is a term for a person who experiences no or little sexual attraction to people. And the plus symbol simply represents all of the other sexualities, sexes and genders that don't identify in the above categories. So, when we look at the terminology for gender and sexually diverse people, sex refers to your biological and physicality. This is determined by our chromosomes and our anatomy, so how we're born. Whereas gender is different from sex and from sexual orientation. Gender is one's internal sense of gender identity and also their gender expression. Gender identity is the psychological awareness or sense of where one fits into the gender spectrum, and gender expression is the way in which one communicates their gender identity through appearance and behaviour. Then when we look at gender identity and gender expression, gender is how we feel in our head and in our heart. When we look at the word transgender, it means it's a biological man or woman whose gender identity most closely matches to the opposite gender. When we look at the word genderqueer or gender fluid, it's someone whose gender identity does not fit neatly into either male or female categories. And cisgender is a person whose gender corresponds with their birth sex. When we look at sexual and sexual orientation, it's who you are or who you are not sexually or romantically attracted to. And this includes things such as gay or homosexual, bisexual, lesbian, pansexual, or asexual. Sexuality is a fluid spectrum. You can have one sexual attraction or feel different types over a lifetime. Sexuality is not a choice, just in case we still need to clarify that. It's the way we're born. Lastly, I'd just like to finish up by talking about what do we want for the future. Education, acceptance, change, and unity. Education. Learning the correct terminology and educating ourselves and others about the queer community and gaining understanding that everyone identifies differently in some way or another. If you get stuck, remember it's always better to ask than it is to assume. You aren't born ignorant, you aren't born with prejudice, and you aren't born homophobic. It's a learnt behaviour. So change that behaviour. Educate yourselves and educate others. For acceptance, every single person in this room is unique. We are all from different walks of life, different ages, races, genders, sexualities, and we all have faced discrimination in one way or another throughout our lives. We want to change that. We want to create safe, inclusive spaces for future generations and remove any types of segregation or discrimination from our communities. Let's be the generation that is understanding, compassionate, inclusive, supportive, and accepting. When we look at change, Don't be another statistic. Don't be another follower. Don't be another person that hears someone use a homophobic or transphobic slur and just lets it slide. Be that change. Take the information you've learnt this evening and apply it. Educate others, be a role model, be a leader. Be an inspiration and be that person that truly makes a difference in the world, in your community, and in others' everyday lives. And finally, tying it all back in, unity. Being different is what makes us unique. Being unique is what makes us special. Being special is what makes us diverse, and being diverse is what should make us unite. We don't accept racism, we don't accept sexism, and we don't accept discrimination. We are the generation that is leading the way. We are the voice, the movement, the power, and the light. Let's find unity through our diversity, and remember, no matter our race, age, gender, sexuality, or culture, we all have one thing in common: we are all human. Thank you.